I'm Caden Love,
And I'm Seema Love, his wife.
and we are Love and Lore, taking dark fantasy, light fantasy, and everything in between. And if you've seen our channel, you know we love Brandon Sanderson, and one of the hot topics today is that he is working on Misborn Era 3 Ghostbloods. So last week I had the opportunity to attend Worldcon in Seattle, where I got to see Brandon Sanderson, George R. Martin, in a plethora of panels, but Brandon Sanderson did a reading of some of the first sections of Ghostbloods, so it was really cool to see what we have in store for us.
And I've read Era 1. I'm in the middle of reading Era 2. And I don't know much about Era 3, so everything Caden will be saying today will be a surprise for me too.
Yeah, so we had the chance, both of us, to go to Seattle. Seema went and hung out with some friends, but I went to the panels, and so it's really going to be exciting. I've given her a couple details, but here we're going to go a full dive on what we learned at Worldcon and other things that have been talked about for this. So if you know about Misborn, Era 1 is epic fantasy, standard setting. Number 2, we have 1900s. There are guns now, but Misborn Era 3 is actually set in Scadrial, the planet where Misborn takes place, their equivalent of the 1980s. And so, first off, we know about 2 confirmed characters, and Sanderson read a chapter sample of each of these characters' perspectives. So, let's start out with our first character. Her name is Avon. She's a 27-year-old female terrace woman. And if you can't remember, terrace, those are the people like Sazed. So it's going to be really interesting to see if they have, the metal stores in that era, how it's all going to work. And the scene that he read is Avon is going into the equivalent of a science fiction convention, and it is sold out. But it was really cool to just listen to him talk about it. She's got headphones in, going around. There are cars on the streets. So it feels very much like a somewhat modern setting, but you do know that there are metals in play in this world. There are mentions of mists, and it is said that she can see mists when others can't.
Is this the first book when Brandon Sanderson sets his world in modernish era?
I would say for the Cosmere, it is probably the second one aside from Yumi and the Nightmare Painter. Yumi's world is a little different, but Painter's world does feel very modern, almost cyberpunk-y. But we look at Six of the Dusk, which is in a future setting. This one is really the first one that we've had that is set in the kind of modern era / 80s. And he did say that Scadrial is probably the most like Earth out of all the planets in the Cosmere. And so I went through, and a Dragon's Steel executive did make some mentions describing Avon as a brown terrace geek girl. So this is going to go into how geek culture works in Scadrial. It was fun to hear Sanderson talk about this after the reading and how he's kind of playing on his past experiences growing up going to conventions in Nebraska. Fun thing to mention, Sanderson did mention that this trilogy was going to feature an Allomancer SWAT team that was going to take out a serial killer, but now it sounds like it's leaning more towards a spy thriller. In the reading, there was one section where he omitted a name, so we do know that there are for sure connections to the other books. I'm really excited to see who's going to show up in this series, and without spoilers, but if you know the Ghostbloods, you know there's probably a certain somebody that is going to show up, and I'm really excited for Seema to discover who this person is. Okay, let's go to the next POV character. This is a 40-ish-year-old male. Bastric is his name, and he is a hunter. So, Southern Scadrial, these people wear masks all the time. So we do get some mentions of that, and it'll be kind of interesting to go into there. This one felt more like a rural setting, but like I said, it was a very short glimpse into the chapters. The whole reading lasted about 20 minutes, so 10 per chapter, and he stopped before big things were revealed. Let's go ahead and talk about probably the worst part about this is that we're not going to see Ghostbloods until 2028. Yeah, and he talked about this originally being a part of the publishing schedule. He's been kind of expected by the industry to publish one after another, boom, 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 boom. But he's trying to give this to kind of relax things, so we'll get book 1 in 2028, and I assume probably the next one 2029, 2030, 2031 is the projected year for Stormlight 6. So it'll be cool to get back on track there. So we got a glimpse into it, but at this point we can just kind of sit back and relax. The next books coming are probably going to be the White Sand novelization. We'll get some more along the way, but we'll have a little bit of a break in the Cosmere unless he surprises us with something else. Something cool to note is that he did talk about how this all came together back in 2004. He had the plan of seeing how an epic fantasy world built up the foundation of religion, lore, and history, and using those in the modern world, kind of like an urban fantasy setting. So we are going to see this in Misborn Era 3, but there are going to be more books. And online there are some conflicting things, but he did mention in the panel that he is looking forward to writing cyberpunk books in the Misborn world, which, if you know me at all, I am a diehard cyberpunk fan, so I can't wait to see that. And on the Coppermind, the big Wikipedia of the Cosmere, it does say that the cyberpunk Misborn trilogy is a possible, with a fourth Misborn trilogy being a space opera. After reading Isles of the Emberdark, if you have, you can probably see that things are starting to move towards that more science fiction-y, science fantasy portion of the Cosmere. But I'm really excited to see where things are going. Those were the big mentions on this. Besides that, he did note that the movie and film rights were pretty far along. They had a cast and things were ready to go, but they fell through. So it looks like we're back to ground zero. He did say that he bought back the rights for his franchises, but did mention that he preferred Stormlight be a TV adaptation, with Mistborn being a film series.
Well, that's it for exciting Brandon Sanderson news. For now, we are waiting for Era 3, Era 4. That's exciting. I didn't know that was coming. And hopefully these movies will get made someday. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.